I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about the day I found out my wife, Emily, was cheating on me. We'd been together for 6 years, married for 3. It was one of those relationships that seemed solid on the surface. Good jobs, a nice house, enough laughs to make life feel easy. But somewhere along the line, I started noticing little things that didn't add up. Emily getting secretive about her phone late nights, excuses for being tired all the time. At first, I brushed it off as stress, or maybe her just being annoyed with me. I mean, we had normal fights, but nothing that felt like the end of the world. Still, deep down, I had this gnawing feeling that something was wrong. It started subtly. She'd suddenly become more distant, less affectionate. Not outright cold, but enough to make me wonder if I was imagining it. I'd find her deleting messages on her phone or rushing to hide her screen when I walked into the room. I caught her lying about where she was going once or twice, saying she was heading to a coworker's, but then I'd find out she never left town. Small things, but enough to put a seed of suspicion in my mind. I didn't want to believe it, but the signs kept piling up. Then, about 2 months ago, I noticed her behavior changed even more. She started leaving her phone around less, always keeping it locked. She'd brush past me if I tried to look at her screen, and her stories about her day became more superficial. Then there was the night I came home from work early, and I found her sleeping on the couch, a little disoriented, like she'd been half asleep or maybe sleepwalking. That was weird enough, but what really stuck with me was the strange, faint smell of another man's cologne on her clothes the next day. I didn't say anything at the time, but it gnawed at me. Something was definitely off. And then came the stupidest mistake I made. One night I was going through her things, trying to find some peace of mind. I found a receipt from a hotel from just a week ago. The place she'd told me she was working late. The receipt was in her purse and it was under her name, but the check-in time was after midnight the night of our anniversary. I felt my stomach drop. My mind was racing with questions. Who was she with? Was she cheating? I tried to push the thought away, but I knew I had to see for myself. So I decided to follow her. I didn't tell her I was onto her. What's the point? I just kept tabs, waiting for the next chance. And then, during our anniversary weekend, everything exploded. I'd planned this little getaway thinking maybe we could salvage what was left, but she had other plans. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. and heard noises from the bedroom. I rolled over, ready to tell her to be quiet, but then I froze. I saw her sleepwalking, stumbling toward the door in a daze. At first, I thought she was just sleepwalking, but then I saw her head toward the hotel room we'd been staying at, her hand on the handle, just like she was about to walk in. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, sleepwalking into the hotel room of the guy I'd found the receipt for. It was like something out of a nightmare. I stayed frozen, watching her open the door and slip inside, her movements sluggish but determined. I could hear muffled sounds, laughter maybe, or just her muffled voice. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew I'd caught her in a lie that she'd been spinning for months. The betrayal cut deep. I lay there, heart pounding, trying to process what I'd just seen. I didn't wake her up. I couldn't. I just watched her go in, knowing that my entire world was crumbling. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My mind kept replaying that scene from the night before, her sleepwalking, heading straight into the hotel room. I kept asking myself if it was just a weird sleep episode or if there was something more sinister behind it. But as the hours went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen enough. I had evidence now, clear as day. She lied about where she'd been, and I'd watched her walk into another man's room while supposedly sleeping in our bed. No way this was just her being tired or stressed, as she always claimed. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, not anymore. I waited until she was out of the house, supposedly running errands, and then I pulled out the receipts, the messages, everything I'd uncovered. I sat there staring at the evidence. My head was a mess, anger, sadness, betrayal, all fighting for space. I thought about what to say, how to say it. I knew I couldn't just ask her outright. She'd deny it, lie her way out, and then somehow turn it around on me. That's exactly what she did when I finally called her that night. When she came home, I was already waiting and I didn't hold back. I showed her the receipts, the messages I'd found on her phone from her friend, Ryan, that confirmed what I suspected. Her face went pale, and she instantly started with her familiar bitchy tone. "You're crazy, Andy. Just because I went to a hotel with someone doesn't mean anything. Maybe we're just friends, or maybe I needed a break. You think I'm cheating just because I wanted a night out? Grow up." I lost it right there. How could she be so dismissive, so manipulative? I told her I saw her sleepwalking into Ryan's hotel room. Her response was a shrill, dismissive laugh. "Oh, that? Yeah, I do sleepwalk sometimes. Happens when I'm stressed. It doesn't mean I'm sleeping with him. Jesus, you're ridiculous." She lied through her teeth. That's what she did. She always did. Denial, deflection, anything to keep her from facing the truth, but I'd seen enough. I told her to pack her bags and leave because I couldn't trust her anymore. Not after that. The emotional fallout was brutal. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The betrayal wasn't just about the cheating, though that hurt like hell. It was about her lying to my face for months. Every time she said she was working late or with friends, I wondered if she was really just with Ryan. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sleepwalking that night, so vulnerable, so unaware of what she was doing. It made me question everything I thought I knew about her, about us. Was she even capable of being honest? Or was I just another fool who ignored all the signs? I spent days trying to process it all. I felt so stupid for trusting her, for giving her the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, I was furious. Furious at her for lying, at Ryan for being part of it, and at myself for not catching her sooner. The worst part was that I still loved her, or at least I thought I did. That love, that trust, had been shattered into tiny pieces I didn't think I could pick up again. Every time I thought about her lying, sneaking around, sleepwalking into that hotel room, it just made me feel sick. I started to distance myself emotionally and physically. I told her I needed space, time to think. She kept trying to make excuses, calling me paranoid, saying I was overreacting, but I was. I knew I had to get out of this mess, figure out what I truly wanted, whether I could forgive her or if this was the end of the road. Honestly, I didn't know what I was hopping for anymore. All I knew was that my world had flipped upside down, and I was left picking up the pieces of a marriage that I now saw was built on lies. After she left that night, the house felt emptier than ever. Silence surrounded me, but my mind was anything but quiet. I kept replaying everything, her sleepwalking, the hotel receipt, the lies she hosed me with. I'd been blindsided. I thought I knew her, thought we had a solid foundation. Turns out I was just fooling myself. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been sneaking around behind my back for months, maybe longer. I remember lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my chest was caving in. It was like I was suddenly living someone else's life, watching everything I believed in just crumble into dust. I couldn't understand how she could just lie and lie and lie, even when I had concrete proof. Every excuse she threw at me, stress, sleepwalking, needing space, sounded so hollow now. I realized she'd been lying to my face, probably right from the start. The emotional pain was raw. I felt betrayed, angry, and crushed. I kept asking myself, how did I get here? How did I miss all the signs? I'd been so trusting, so blind to what she was hiding. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the night she sleepwalked into Ryan's hotel room. Was she even aware of what she was doing? Did she know she was betraying me? Or was she just so deep in her lies she didn't even realize she'd crossed that line? I decided then that I needed to know everything. I needed to understand how deep her betrayal went. It wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about confronting the reality I'd been blind to for so long. I started digging into her phone, her emails, anything I could find. I needed facts, not just suspicions. I was angry at her for all the lies, but I was also angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. I felt like a fool, and that hurt worse than anything. In my search, I found more evidence: flirty texts, late-night calls, secret messages. The thing that hit me hardest was the realization that this wasn't just a one-night thing. It had been going on for a while, maybe even before the hotel night. The emotional toll was mounting, and I was trying to hold it all together. I felt like I was losing my mind, caught between heartbreak and rage. I Didn't know whether I wanted to scream at her, cry, or just disappear. But underneath it all, a strange sense of clarity was emerging. I knew I couldn't keep living in denial. I had to face the truth head on. So I planned to confront her again, this time with everything I'd found. I wanted her to know I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I saw her for what she really was, a liar and a cheat. I wanted her to finally admit what she'd done and face the consequences of her actions. That night I sat in my chair, trembling, clutching the evidence, knowing that whatever happened next was going to change everything forever. I remember thinking, this is the moment I've been dreading but knew was coming. The moment I'd finally get answers, whether good or bad. I'd spent days fighting the urge to reach out, to call her, to beg her to tell me the truth. But I knew that would just be giving her more power. So I waited. I waited for her to come home, for her to face what she had created. And when she did, I confronted her with everything I had. The storm was about to hit, and I knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same again. When she finally walked back through the door that evening, I could see the usual smirk on her face, the one she always used when she thought she was winning an argument or getting away with something. But this time, I wasn't about to let her slide. I had everything laid out, screenshots, receipts, even her own messages. I felt like a detective, but really, I was just a man tired of being lied to. I've seen everything, I said, voice steadier than I felt. The hotel receipt, the messages, you're sleepwalking into Ryan's room. How long has this been going on, Emily? She gave me that sneering look, her eyes flashing with mockery. Oh, please, you're overreacting. You're just jealous or insecure, whatever. I told you I was stressed, that I needed a break. You're making a big deal out of nothing. She laughed, that bitchy, sharp laugh that I was starting to hate hearing. Then she added, you're so paranoid, Andy. It's pathetic. I felt the rage bubbling up, but I kept my voice even. Pathetic? No, what's pathetic is you lying to my face for months, pretending everything's fine while you're out sleeping with our friend Ryan. I saw you sleepwalking into his hotel room. Do you even realize how fucked up that is? She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. Look, I don't know what you want me to say. Yeah, I messed up. I'm not proud of it, but I was stressed, okay? The sex with Ryan was just a distraction. It didn't mean anything. I love you, I do, but I was just overwhelmed. That one hit me like a punch to the gut. She said she loved me, yet she was sneaking around, sleeping with Ryan, lying to my face. I felt sick. Love? You call that love? You've been lying, cheating, sleepwalking into another guy's room, and you expect me to believe you're just overwhelmed, that you didn't mean to do it. She snapped back. You don't understand. I was just having a rough patch. I didn't want to hurt you. I was stupid, okay? I was weak, but I swear I never wanted to hurt you. Ryan's just a mistake. It's not like I wanted to end us because of him. That was the moment I realized she was justifying everything, twisting her own guilt into some kind of excuse. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I wanted her gone, that I couldn't keep living with her lies. I told her I was done with her manipulation, done with the lies. She looked furious, hurling her usual insults, saying I was overreacting, that I was controlling. But I knew deep down I wasn't overreacting. I'd seen the truth, and it was a brutal, unforgiving truth. The shock of it all left me numb. I'd gone from loving her to feeling nothing but betrayal in a matter of hours. I kept asking myself why I'd stayed so long, why I'd ignored all the signs. But now, there was no denying it. She was gone in every way that mattered, and I was left staring at the wreckage of what I thought was our life. The pain was overwhelming, and all I could think about was how stupid I'd been to trust her in the first place. That night I sat alone, trying to process the fact that I'd been played for a fool. I felt everything, anger, sadness, despair, all swirling together. I knew I had a choice, fight to save what was left or cut her out entirely. But somehow, deep down, I knew the damage was done. The trust was shattered beyond repair. And as I looked at the evidence spread out on the table, I realized the only way forward was to walk away from her, from all the lies and heartbreak. It was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do, but I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on deception. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog. I'd made my decision, she was gone, and I was going to start rebuilding from the wreckage. But it wasn't easy. Every little thing reminded me of her, the way she used to laugh, the way she'd brush past me like I was invisible. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to her lies. The betrayal ran deep, and it cut like a knife every time I thought about her sleepwalking into Ryan's hotel room, completely unaware of what she was doing. I started going through all our shared stuff, trying to find some meaning in the chaos. Her clothes, her things, everything was a reminder of the woman I thought I knew. I felt angry, but mostly I felt hollow. I'd lost not just my wife, but the sense of security I once had. Sleeping alone, I'd lie awake at night, replaying her sleepwalking scene, trying to understand how someone I loved could be so utterly dishonest. In the process, I found more evidence that confirmed what I suspected. This wasn't just a one-time slip-up. There were texts, late-night calls, secret meetings. I was furious at Ryan too, knowing he'd been a part of this mess just like Emily. The feeling of betrayal was so intense that I started to question everything about our relationship. How long had she been lying? How much of what she told me was a lie? Every question I had seemed to lead to more pain, more unanswered doubts. I realized I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. I needed to confront her one last time, get closure, or perhaps just to hear her admit everything. I reached out, told her I wanted to talk. She played it cool at first, acting like I was blowing everything out of proportion. But I did hold back. I laid out all the evidence I had collected, and I saw her reaction change. Her face turned white and she tried to deny it all, but I'd had enough of her lies. Finally, she snapped. Her voice was defensive, bitchy even. "You think I'm some kind of monster, you're overreacting. I told you I was just stressed. Maybe I was stupid, but I still love you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." She looked at me with that irritating smirk, like she thought she could talk her way out of it. But I didn't buy her bullshit anymore. I told her she had to leave, that I couldn't stay married to a liar. I said I'd had enough of her excuses, her manipulations. The aftermath was a mess. I felt a strange mixture of relief and devastation. I was finally free from her lies, but at what cost? My trust was shattered, and I was left with this gaping hole in my heart. I kept asking myself how I'd let this happen, how I'd let myself get so blindsided. I'd been so sure about us, so convinced we were solid, and now I was just a guy picking up the pieces of a marriage that was never what I thought it was. I decided I wasn't going to chase her or try to fix what was broken. I knew that wouldn't work. Instead, I focused on myself. I went back to therapy, tried to rebuild my confidence, and started to think about what I really wanted moving forward. I knew I'd be okay eventually, but right now, that felt like a distant dream. All I could do was accept what had happened and learn from it. I trusted her, loved her, and she'd betrayed me in the worst way. But I also learned something vital. Sometimes the only way to truly heal is to walk away from what's broken, no matter how much it hurts. Looking back now, I realize that this whole experience has changed me in ways I never expected. At first, I was just angry at her, angry at Ryan, angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. But over time, I've started to see it as a painful lesson about trust and boundaries. I learned that sometimes people hide who they really are behind a mask, and no matter how much you love them, you have to protect yourself from their lies. I'll admit, it's still a process. There are nights I lie awake and think about her sleepwalking into that hotel room, and I wonder if she ever truly knew what she was doing, or if her subconscious was just betraying her as much as she betrayed me. I wonder if she ever truly loved me, or if she was just pretending because it was easier than facing the truth. These questions don't have answers, and honestly, I don't need them anymore. What I do know is that I am finally free from the constant doubt, the paranoia, the betrayal. I've started rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've learned to trust myself again, to listen to my gut. I've realized that although I was deeply hurt, I am stronger than I thought. I don't hate her, I'm just done with the lies. That's the key lesson I want to share. No matter how much you love someone, if they lie, cheat, and manipulate, it's better to walk away than to stay and get crushed further. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take from my story, it's this: pay attention to the red flags. Don't ignore the small signs of trouble and trust your instincts. Once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to fix. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away, even if your heart is still holding on. Because in the end, you owe yourself honesty and respect. I'm still healing, Still learning how to trust again, but I know I'll be okay. I've survived the worst betrayal I could imagine, and I've come out the other side stronger, wary but wiser. And that's enough for now.